Good afternoon and welcome to this presentation of domestic violence against women, a global concern through the eyes of an educational and developmental psychologist. World Health Organisation's data suggests chronic and evidence concern of violence against women, particularly intimate partner violence and sexual violence globally stands at 30%. 1 in 3 women aged between 15 and 49 years have been in a relationship and report that they have been subjected to physical or sexual violence by their intimate partner. Real figures, however, of this global health problem is of epidemic proportions and requires urgent action, as reported by WHO, acknowledges that there are significant stigmas attached to the correct reporting of domestic violence statistics. In Australia, the 2012 Personal Safety Survey found that 80% of women who experience some type of violence by a current partner never reported it to police. Let's try to define the multifaceted domestic violence against women title. It's been defined as any act of gender-based violence that results in or is likely to result in physical, sexual or mental harm, and these can include coercion or arbitrary deprivation of liberty, whether occurring publicly or in private. Educational and developmental psychologists specialise in evidence-based development and educational approaches to the well-being of people across their lifespan, fostering cognitive, social and emotional learning, connectedness and social support in individual and group situations. They identify, evaluate, diagnose, create and evaluate treatment programs and other interventions. Domestic violence is the leading cause of morbidity and mortality against women of childbearing age. The main reason for this morbidity and mortality is that the mental health impact domestic violence is responsible for. When individuals require help in mental health care settings, they present with mental health issues such as depression, anxiety, insomnia, suicidal ideation and post-traumatic stress disorder. Many of these morbidities are linked to underlying abuse and domestic violence that, as we've reported on, are not investigated nor treated, potentially because of fear and shame associated with the power inequity between men and women. The International Violence Against Women Survey, conducted in 2002 and 3, and the 2012 Bureau of Statistics Personal Safety Survey provide us with details of the risk factors that influence domestic violence in Australia, as listed on the slide here. These surveys suggest that there is a relationship between the experience of violence as a child and subsequent potentiality of victimisation as an adult, and that there is 1.5 times more likelihood of abuse as an adult if you have had abuse as a child. One of the strongest risk factors of intimate partner physical abuse, again evidenced by the International Violence Against Women Survey, was the abuse of drugs and alcohol. Male perpetrators inflicted abuse against their partners more frequently, with more serious injuries being sustained, and it was also a greater significant risk for domestic violence in Indigenous communities. 44% of intimate power homicides are related to alcohol related. The Australian Institute of Health and Welfare reported in 2018 some of the reasons why much domestic violence is unreported and how to combat the lack of this reporting. Developing the strategies, processes and programs to enable avenues to change referrals to health professionals could dramatically change the statistics with working with women over a period of time as they foster cognitive, social and emotional learning. This has been effective through implementing cognitive behaviour therapy, which I'll address a little bit later. The Australian Bureau of Statistics reported who the victims of domestic violence told about the incidents. This graph strongly illustrates that friends and family are the strongest supports for victims. This graph also acknowledges that it's only a representation of those who have actually sought help. It also perhaps reflects the pathways to see psychologists need to be improved so that greater use of this resource is sought by women who would benefit from the service. Other healthcare professionals and counsellor support care workers are only accessed by approximately 20 to 30% of the victims who do seek help and intervention. This is an area that could benefit from improvement to improve outcomes for women. An initiative by the New South Wales Government and Ministry of Health looked to intervene with vulnerable communities, support victims, hold perpetrators accountable and deliver evidence-based quality services to make victims feel safer and support their recovery. Intervention early lessens the impact of the abuse. Priority areas for government in linking the reporting processes for domestic violence against women will enable for streamlined and more effective reporting of violence as outlined in this document. Data is yet to be tabulated as to if, after this initiative, more women are being referred for help. Sustainability of interventions require investments in organisational change and health systems done by government. Services are available to address domestic violence against women. Cognitive behaviour therapy can alleviate emotional numbing, reducing post-traumatic stress disorder and depression while increasing self-esteem. Cognitive behavioural techniques can also reduce the symptoms of stress and anxiety. Psychoeducation allows the participants to understand the intergenerational cycle of domestic violence as well as its different forms of expression. Understanding the cycle of domestic violence contributes to women understanding their experiences, helping to minimise their feelings of guilt and shame, as well as perceptions that they were responsible for this victimisation. It is these feelings of guilt and shame that are associated with symptoms of depression, anxiety, and that educational psychologists work to improve. Karatsias et al. Reports that CBT has a moderate to large effect on disturbances in relationships and large effects on affect dysregulation and negative self-concept in post-traumatic stress disorder symptoms. Advocacy for women is best described as educational empowerment strategies, referral to support services, and safety planning. Another component of the intervention that may be associated with the reduction of such symptoms was the promotion of the development of strategies for self-protection. These strategies have allowed women to perceive themselves with control over their current life situation, knowing their existing rights and services that can aid in their protection. Eye movement desensitisation reprogramming also shows significant reduction of post-traumatic stress disorder and anxiety symptoms and has shown better long-term effects than some other therapies. To conclude, I'd like to share this acronym, a UN-developed framework aimed to protect and empower women through relationships, empowerment, service ensured, poverty reduction, enabling environments created, abuse prevented, and transforming attitudes and belief. This framework, which puts safety first, promotes gender equality and human rights, develops a theory of change, promotes evidence-informed programming and includes psychosocial support and psychological interventions, is useful to navigate the nuances of individualised planning for women who have been in situations of domestic violence. Domestic violence against women has a devastating effect on our community, and concerning is the recognised underreporting and how to encourage and unburden potential misgivings and navigate the help that is needed. This journey should be supported sensitively in reaction to the needs of women and developed appropriately.